which we need to do that. Every home in this country needs to start at the grassroots level, keeping track of their children and not letting them watch these violent videos and making them think that it's okay to kill hundreds of people. If we look at our history books, that's what Japan did to their youth. They taught their kids that it was all right to fly kamikaze airplanes into ships. And that's what we're doing to our kids today with these violent videos. We're teaching them that it's okay to go someplace and steal a gun and mow down hundreds of people. So in closing, I support the grassroots level of this town board by passing that resolution and sending a message to our legislators in Albany and Washington.
My name is Herman Rivera from Olive Bridge. What everybody forgot to say about these shootings, all these kids, everybody was there on drugs. They're legal drug prescribed by doctors, okay? These kids, there's something definitely wrong, and it's not the guns. People have changed in America. They've got violent, they're on drugs. I'm a federal firearms dealer. I've sold thousands of guns. None of my guns ever killed anybody. None. And by taking guns away from legal citizens, taxpayers, is not the way to go. Fix the drug problem with the doctors pushing these garbage drugs to the children. And can I say something to the, can I give this paper to this woman? Okay, this is the form that you have to fill out to obtain a firearm. And I don't think this lady knows what you have to do to obtain a firearm. A long gun, a shotgun, or a handgun. I would like her to see this form.
It's a lot of work.
At gun show, you have to fill that form out. At gun shows, private, private sales, no. At gun shows, yes. This is not Virginia or down south where you walk in and you come home with a gun. This is a FBI background check. In 2 seconds, I can come up if you're a criminal or not. In 2 seconds.
She wants to know.
How are you? Len Bernardo. I just want to thank this board for a couple of reasons. Many people actually got a couple of calls of why is Shandaken doing this? County's already done it. What's going on? The fact of the matter is the governor did this not in the light of day. It wasn't vetted, it was a bad law, and I applaud you folks for taking this up because it needs to be vetted. Whether you're for or against it, it needs to be here in Shandaken. It needs to be at the county levels. And I applaud you guys for doing it. Obviously you know where I stand on the issue, but thank you very much for taking it up here.
I'm Dan Fever, One Town, New York, along with Phoenicia Gun Club, down the road. I wasn't going to speak, but I'm just going to give a few facts and figures. This is where there's some misguidance. Cuomo broke laws that affected your Constitution. Okay, we can say it's the Second Amendment, but if a government can get away with adjusting that, how long does it take until they adjust the first one? And the First Amendment is freedom of speech, that's being here, newspapers, and everything. So people that don't understand the point of view from the guns, the only reason the United States is the United States and not Iraq or Cuba is our Constitution and people being held to that level of that Constitution. Cuba was the beautiful vacation place in the 50s, and then Castro showed up. Iraq was an up-and-coming city, and Saddam took over. And, so those are some things. Then, few facts. In the last 2 years, to make the budget work, which I'm all about making the budget work, Cuomo closed 7 state penitentiaries. To close those penitentiaries, talk to the corrections officers. They were forced into reclassifying inmates. The guy that killed the firefighters in Webster smashed his grandmother's skull in 4 inches when he was 30 years old because she didn't give him money. He went to jail for 18 years. He got older. They let him out. He didn't need to come out. We need to save money, but we don't need to let a guy out that 11 months later starts killing firefighters. okay? In the Hudson Valley, we had the Wassaic Psych Center, the Mid-Hudson Psych Center, the Hudson Valley Psych Center, that's Wassaic, Poughkeepsie, Middletown. Up to 2001, 10,500 live-in mental patients. Today, 0. Okay? Everybody wants to blame the gun. The guys that have done these acts have been on drugs. When you are on a blood pressure pill, your doctor makes you come back in. It's his responsibility to keep an eye on you and see how it's going. How come nobody blames the doctor that keeps forking the money out for the drugs? Okay? So the problem with going after the gun in the Second Amendment is everybody's reacting to symptoms. If you were in business and you react to symptoms, by the third one, you're out of business. So when you have symptoms, you take your brains, put them together, analyze the symptoms, define your problem, and you have to define the problem right the first time because nobody can afford not to. So the same thing in the state. I asked Cahill the other day, and I said, well, how many of these things like that micro-stamping helped? He goes, well, it was a feel-good thing. I said, it was a feel-good. It cost $44 million, and nobody's ever convicted. And then just one other comment. The paper you have there, everybody fills that out. There are 60,000 people that failed that. The government was supposed to go and review them. They only prosecuted under 100 people in 12 years. These are facts. You can look them up. I can supply them. And thank you for your time.
I just want to say the irony in this whole situation is this law is coming down from a federal government that sold illegal guns to Mexican cartels. Innocent Mexican citizens with these guns, and an American border guard was killed, and we still haven't gotten to the bottom of it. So go to the government first.
For those that don't know me, my name's Ethan Bernstein. I also commend you guys for holding to this resolution. I've been a member here of the town of Shandaken for 34 years. I was a U.S. Marine for 5. I was a police officer for 3. You guys took an oath as town board members. I took a very similar oath. The difference between mine and yours was I also chose to protect our Constitution against enemies both foreign and domestic, and I also feel that the government is doing us wrong on this, and I stand behind you guys as far as the resolution you made last month.
Gentleman in the back.
Hello, I'm Mike Leone. I'm a neighbor. I live over in Marbletown, more to the point, Atwood. I want to commend everybody who supported this referendum. And yes, it is a town issue because that's the way government works. It starts at the bottom and it goes up to the top. And if anybody doesn't realize what the Constitution is, it's the laws that we own that governs the government. It's the only thing we have that governs the government. It doesn't say we can assemble. It doesn't say we can own guns. It doesn't say we have the rights to religion in our home. It says we already have these rights and the government cannot take them away. It tells the government, no, you cannot do this. That is what the Constitution does. It's our laws telling the government what they can't do. And it's the only thing we have. The government has a whole lot of laws telling us what we are and aren't allowed to do. This is the only thing we have that tells the government what they are not allowed to do. So that's what the Bill of Rights and the Constitution was all about. And people fail to understand that, no matter how many times they're told. So this is way past the party issue, way past, this is our rights issue. And it's not just guns. I mean, yes, it's about the guns, but it's not just the guns now. It's the way Governor Cuomo, he broke laws, the way he passed the law. And he has to be held, his feet have to be held to the fire for that too. So we have to abolish the law, we have to repeal the law, and we have to hold his feet to the fire for the way he does business in Albany. He can't be allowed to do that because that's not the way our democracy runs. And as far as the guns go, they say gun owners need to compromise. 1934, National Firearms Act. It instilled confiscation, registration nationwide, and 1968, the National Gun Control Act. That instilled confiscation, registration. 1986, Firearm Owners Protection Act. 1993, Brady Handgun Violence Act. 1994, Assault Weapons Ban. 1995, Gun-Free School Zones. We've compromised plenty, and I say enough, and we should all say enough. No more infringements. When do the criminals get to compromise? When do we start infringing on the criminals' rights? When do they start paying for the damage that they do, and when do we stop paying for the damage they do? I want to thank you for letting me speak. And one more thing real quick. I was looking through your police reports, and for being on a main state thoroughfare, where your police should feel pretty lucky. They have 3 petty larcenies and 3 lockout calls. They don't have to work very hard in this town. Not to knock them, but they should feel lucky. Not every town has that luxury.
Be careful when you drive.
My point is, people, this is Mayberry. And I can't believe anybody would oppose something like this in a town that, I mean, you know, you've got a nice little town here, and I have friends in this town, I do. And I used to work for Ulster County Highway Department, and I used to come to this substation a lot and fix the trucks, and I ate dinner here a lot of times in snowstorms, and when your dad had a restaurant down my neck of the woods, we had a lot of dinners that took 3 hours because we sat there and shot full a long time. So, I mean, like I said, I'm a neighbor, and this is a nice little town, and thank you very much for your support.
My name's Fawn Tantillo, and I'm from New Paltz, and I appreciate you taking the time to listen to us. I came up to Shandaken tonight because I thought they were going to give you the full petition that was given to the legislature. I looked that petition over, and there were, my supervisor signed it twice, so I thought if they were coming up here to give it to you, I would mention it to you. Also, I believe Lynn Bernard's dog signed it.
Sunday.
So,
we don't actually have any control over who signs it.
I understand.
That makes it
And there are people from all over the world that signed that, the one that we got. But there are people on both sides of this extremes, and this is a very polarizing issue. Some people who think that nobody should have a gun ever for any reason, and others extremes who think that everybody should have access to tanks and flamethrowers. I think both extremes are a bit ridiculous, but I believe the vast majority of New Yorkers are somewhere in the middle, and we actually agree on several issues, no matter which side of the issue we come from. I think the vast majority of New Yorkers don't have a problem with hunters, competitive or recreational shooting, and most of us would agree that nobody needs an assault weapon or a high-capacity magazine. The big difference is how we define those items. How do we define an assault weapon or a high-capacity magazine? And at least a few of the people who signed the petition was given to the legislature, because I spoke to several of them, believe that the SAFE Act was talking about fully automatic weapons we see on these video games that just vomit out bullets all day long. That's not what we were talking, that's not what the SAFE Act talks about. Most of us agree we don't need those kind of guns. Those guns and magazines have been illegal for years, and that's not what the SAFE Act was talking about. In changing the definition of assault weapon, SAFE went too far. A pistol grip or a forearm grip does nothing to impact the firearm or how many bullets it can fire. It has nothing to do with it mechanically, just like painting a gun pink doesn't make it a toy. Most of us would agree we have a gang problem. We were talking even up here in Shandaken, you have gang, there's gang issues that we have to deal with. We would agree that a law that could prevent gangs from roaming the streets and intimidating people would be a good thing. But if the law was written in a way that defined a Boy Scout troop as a gang, or prevented Girl Scouts from going door to door selling cookies, most of us would say it went too far. The SAFE Act went too far. The New York SAFE Act makes the guns my children first learn to shoot on illegal because it only takes a 10-shot clip. It makes the custom deer rifle my father made for my mom when she developed arthritis and put a thumb hole in it, an assault rifle. It makes the rifles that biathlon athletes use in the Olympics an assault rifle. And most New Yorkers don't think gunners like me are a problem. I've been shooting safely since I was a child. I shoot for fun, I shoot competitively, and I hunt. I owned a sporting goods store for 35 years, and I've had a pistol permit for more than 35 years. I've proven that I am a responsible gun owner. Why make me a criminal? Why take away my pistol permit or make it expire? And I don't keep a handgun just for some fictitious evil that might come. I actually had to defend my children and 3 of their friends and myself when the New York State Police actually chased a criminal into my house. And when the kids told him he was hiding behind our house, they backed out of the driveway. Now, I'm sure they thought that he continued running up down the street. They had no way of knowing he ran into my house, but he did. And I saw it, and my kids came in and had time to tell me. This nightmare played out with the state police literally across the street from my house. My husband, unaware, less than 100 yards away, and I was on the phone with 911. I shudder to think what would have happened that day if I hadn't had a weapon to stop him from taking one of the children and was able to hold him at bay until the police arrived. Yet when my sporting goods store was robbed and 10 handguns were stolen a few years ago, the 3 men from Gardner and New Paltz, who caught selling them on the streets of New York City, were let off with little more than a slap on the wrist. Of the 3 arrested that night selling guns to an undercover officer, only 1 spent more than a night in jail, and he was only sentenced to 1 year in jail. Caught red-handed, selling stolen guns in New York City, and he went to jail for 1 year. If I carry my pistol permit, my legally owned pistols, on my permit to New York City, I'd go to jail for a year. That's the problem, not me. I applaud you for what you did. I want to say to the governor, stop passing laws to make me a criminal and put real criminals in jail. I thank you for joining the Ulster County Legislature, the Ulster County Sheriff, and dozens of other counties and law enforcement associations across the state to call for the repeal of the SAFE Act. It doesn't make any of us safer. I hope we can enforce the laws that we have and leave law-abiding citizens alone.
Hi, my name is Phil Palizzato. I want to thank you for passing the resolution against the SAFE Act. I just want to mention one thing. The SAFE Act is an ex post facto law, and what I mean by that is that it criminalizes prior conduct that was legal. You bought a rifle, you bought a high-capacity magazine. Now the people that own that are Class D felons. And I want to say that the Constitution expressly forbids ex post facto laws. So it's an outrage that, that they passed this, and I want to thank you for passing a resolution against it. Thank you.
One more comment in the back. Sorry, Tony's gentleman here. Is that a page first, please? Then Tony, I'll come to you, and you will probably be the final comment of the evening on this.
That's a left when you point there.
The reason I come up here is because
Your name, please.
Thomas Seawald. I live literally right up the road. The reason I come here tonight is because I completely agree with what you guys did, and I feel that I speak for a lot of my generation and the youth that has grown up here, and I strongly believe in my right to hunt. And enjoy the sport of shooting. I wrote something, if you don't mind me reading quick. I wrote, I feel the New York State SAFE Act is in fact nothing but a law being made that is going to make the law-abiding citizens of New York criminals. I feel this way because any legal gun owner is a responsible human being who has taken the legal measures to obtain the rifle or pistol of their choice. I do not feel that I should be hindered by current criminals' choices. It is not in any way the gun's fault that these casualties happen. Criminals will find a way to obtain these weapons one way or another. These thugs and gangbangers on the streets do not in any way carry AR-15 rifles or assault weapons due to the lack of being able to conceal them. Pistols are a weapon that need to be registered, permit required, and extensive background check, yet criminals have them. So in fact, the registering of assault weapons is only going to hinder the people who do abide the law. I feel the only way to stop mass murders like the Newtown shooting is not to disarm citizens who can prevent things such as Sandy Hook. Not only will the SAFE Act take thousands of jobs away from New Yorkers, it will put us in more economic crisis due to the unemployment rate that us law-abiding, working, tax-paying gun owners pay for. American Tactical Imports produces rifles we use today, such as AR-15s, 22s, and shotguns, and they make them right out of Rochester, New York. These jobs will all be gone if the SAFE Act passes. To anybody who does not know the specifics of an AR-15 rifle, it's a 22 caliber semi-automatic. The only difference between an AR-15 and a 22 long rifle is that it makes a bigger noise and has a centerfire primer. The fact is, it looks like a military weapon, but is far from it. A military weapon is a fully automatic weapon used by the military. In most cases, it's a 308. An AR-15 weapon is designed off of the M4 profile, which means exactly as it is said, designed. It is not an M4. Those of you may think I'm insane, I have no right to have any weapon I would like, and you are right. I cannot have a grenade launcher or a tank or a rocket launcher, like someone may think. But if I, as a mentally sane person who hunts, fishes, and enjoys the sport of shooting cannot do these things, it will go back to what I said earlier, our economic crisis. These citizens who legally own these guns, buy M1 hunting licenses, pay tax on them. My hunting license costs nearly $100 this year. If you take away these rights, not only is our economy going to be affected, but so will Shandaken's future. Shandaken and the rest of the Catskill Mountains is exactly that, the mountains. And people come here for the simple fact of being able to hunt, fish, and partake in the sport of shooting. We have multiple gun clubs in our town and many assault weapon owners, yet there are no mass murders here. Instead of all these jobs being taken, create more out of this tragedy, we need security in our schools, which means armed, well-trained citizens, may that be police or security guards. The reason these mass murders happen in places such as schools and movie theaters is because it is simply the most defenseless places, because they are firearm prohibited areas, easy targets. Shootings of these numbers never occurred in past times because behind every blade of grass there was a gun. We have become weak and will only become weaker if the SAFE Act passes.
Tony, you want to say something?
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tony Alani. I'm part of American Legion Post 950, proud to be a veteran. Everybody knows about the Constitution. We're trying to get back to basics, common sense. We go to Mars, we dig up soil, we travel, the thing does everything. We can't cure cancer. You can't take a heart disease. We're losing our family. What are we going to do with our laws? Gas companies, they rob us blind. Legally, at least Butch Cassidy told his kid had a gun. They do it very nicely, just do it. Our president wants to do gun control, I can understand a little bit what he's doing. But why on Congress and them doing more to protect us, to get us money back? Families can't eat. I'm a senior citizen. I gotta worry about going to visit my daughter in Kingston because, geez, the gas gonna be that much. I don't know if I can make it. So pension check to pension check. That's some of the things we should be fighting for. We've taken care of gun control. To me, they've done wonderful. We don't need any more done. Let's take care of basic things like surviving and having our children get survived. Because the rate they're going at, it doesn't look good to me. Thank you all, and I hope we do basics.
It's getting late. 3 very quick items. Very first of all, it is my considered legal opinion that the law that was enacted by the state of New York was extremely improper. It violates the Second Amendment to the Constitution. It violates the principle that there shall be no ex post facto law, And it also violates the principle of making sure that everybody has due process before you take something away. I am the very lucky recipient of a gift from one of my former Green Beret buddies. He gave me a rifle that is my treasure. That rifle today would cause me to be a criminal if I continue to possess it. I've had it for over 40 years. There's no reason that I should have my gun taken away because some madman went and did something wrong. Next, what I'd like to do is to say, very importantly, you folks all raised your hands. You pledged to the Constitution. Some of you I swore in. And every time I walk in this room and I see that poster over there with those folks, with the poster of a gentleman being able to exercise his First Amendment right, I thank you for giving us this opportunity tonight, and I thank you for having the courage in passing your resolution.
All right.
Well, I want to thank you all for your comments tonight. Appreciate them all. Again, one thing that was touched on briefly, and I've seen it from both sides. Know that we can sit here and have this civil conversation, and this is what our forefathers envisioned. They did not envision us shooting each other and killing each other amongst ourselves. There are men in this room that went out and fought wars to protect the right for people to say whether I agree or disagree with laws being enacted or not enacted. So I please ask that you use some restraint when you put out comments publicly, and at least recognize your neighbors and your fellow friends in your neighborhood. That's what can make Shandaken unique, that we can have this conversation, we can agree to disagree at times, and still move on and move forward for the betterment of our community. So thank you all for the conversation. With that, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn the meeting tonight in memory of Brian Bloodgood and Edith Sanchez. Please take a moment.